Morning all. Alright, so I'm starting off with the news of the day video first. I'll do the preview after. But I wanted to talk about this first. So last night, Brendan Gallagher, guilty of a head hit on Adam Pelech, which got him thrown out of the game. And today it has been announced he will have a hearing. It will not be in person. The expectation was it would probably be 5 or more games. The fact that it's a phone hearing means it's probably going to be 2 or 3. So we'll see what the verdict ends up being. But I've already seen a lot of reaction on social media from a lot of people, and it definitely seems like most expected it to be an in-person hearing due to the viciousness of the check in this circumstance. But they're going with less than that. So Gallagher will be out of the lineup for Montreal for probably 2 or 3 games, and we can have that debate again on player safety. That's always a fun debate to have. So the San Jose Sharks have unveiled their new Finn jersey. I've seen it. It's not bad. It's pretty sharp. It's got some nice sleeves. I know there's people who don't like the sleeves. I do like the logo on the front. I think that's kind of nice. And on the shoulder, you've got Northern California right there. It's on both shoulders. This is from the stadium jersey they released about 10 years ago. I think it's nice. I've seen some people say they don't like it, but I'm considering getting one, so haven't decided yet. The 4 stadium jerseys have been released. No, I don't have them. They're getting mostly good reviews. I find them to be kind of meh. Honestly, they're all kind of meh, but the Islanders one is objectively ugly because that's what the Islanders do. They create ugly jerseys. So I've been making videos that are going to post to the channel while I'm on vacation, and I did an updated version of the ugliest jersey from each team. And there's a lot of choices with the Islanders. There's a lot. And so it feels like this is just a pattern. They continue. This is just what they do. They create ugly jerseys. It's just if it's a third, generally they've been ugly. The one they have currently as their third is nice. But yeah, they've had a lot of ugly jerseys. I mean, they usually are trying something kind of different. In this case, not so much. It just says Isles across the front. I'll throw it in the thumbnail. So yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts. I'm kind of surprised people really like the Rangers one because it just says NYR on it, but hey, whatever the youngins like these days, that's what's important, right? So if you're willing to break open your wallet and get any of these, that's on you. But I will say this, the Flyers don't really change much. So you can either look at the Flyers and say, well, there's a lack of creativity, or you know what? They've got a brand and they just stick to it and they don't really vary from it very much. But again, stadium jerseys generally end up being on the uglier side, in my opinion. And so when that video releases next week, there's some stadium jerseys in there. So anyways, yeah, the 4 stadium jerseys released. If you've seen them or if you've noticed with the thumbnail, let me know your thoughts. But the Islanders one, I haven't seen anybody even trying to defend it. Owen Tippett has signed, because at the time I'm writing this up, it was still, he's going to sign, but it's official now. Apparently, it's an 8-year extension between Tippett and the Philadelphia Flyers worth $6.2 million per. It was broken by Pierre LeBrun. Apparently, there may still be some language they're working on involving no movement or no trade clause. But Tippett's sticking around in Philadelphia for a while, and he's been quite good. He's one of the more dangerous goal scorers. And so I would expect Tippett to be a pretty good deal at $6.2 million per season. But you guys can let me know your thoughts about the Tippett contract as well. The streak for the Edmonton Oilers has reached 15. So as I mentioned in the video last night, you people will cut it down because, they haven't played anybody. But the reality is that the Oilers have been just playing so well and finding different ways to win. Last night's another example of just a different way to win than other previous games they've had as well. If it's a defensive game, they win that just as well as they win the offensive games, and that's what should lead to more success come postseason than what they've enjoyed to this point during McDavid's era. Columbus apparently listening on bigger names involving maybe Laine Provorov. It's Darren Dreger who's basically saying that Jarmo Kekalainen is listening, which means he's not calling and actively shopping anybody. Just if somebody calls, he'll listen, which is usually, I would think, a good way to go about it if you're a general manager. I mean, if somebody calls you and says, hey, I want to talk to you about trading Alex Ovechkin, you might think to yourself, I'm not going to trade him, but sure, we can have a conversation on the phone about it. But yeah, so Fantilli is off the table. So if you're worried about Fantilli, nope. And it's highly likely Boone Jenner's off the table as well. Outside of that, we'll see what they do and who gets moved. Columbus does need to make some changes. They did get the win last night over Calgary, but they're nowhere near the playoffs. So they absolutely need to make some changes. This is where the question comes in, though, and this is something that I've always wondered about, too. So when people get mad at the way a GM's put a team together, and there are people who aren't happy about the way Jarmo's put this team together or the way that he's approached it, do you trust that same GM then to fix his problems, or do you want somebody else to come in and fix that problem? So that's the question mark. If you don't necessarily trust the general manager, do you want him to still be the one that's making those decisions? Some teams will make the decision to remove a GM before things get worse, and in some cases they wait. And yeah, I've always wondered what the thought process is on that. That if you decide this GM's not doing his job very well, and you're going into trade deadline and the draft and everything else, then do you still trust him to try to turn it around? So yeah, for Jarmo, there's some pressure on him here to get these right if he does decide to move a big name or two. It may have to wait until the summer, too, because the salary cap's going to go up. Teams are going to have cap space. It might be a lot easier to make those deals. Chris Tanev coming out after last night's game and saying the fourth straight loss at home is unacceptable. It's a 6-game homestand. It concludes tomorrow night with them playing at home against the Chicago Blackhawks. And I will agree with Chris Tanev. It is unacceptable to lose at home 5-2 against Columbus when you're a team that is struggling to stay in the hunt for a playoff spot. And while the Flames, I still think there's potential there for them to turn it around. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So we'll see if it does, and if it doesn't, I'm just saying that with the way they've been playing lately, it doesn't look like it's there. And I didn't really get the feeling in the third period last night that they were going to come back, which is odd because I've watched Columbus fumble third periods during this season as part of the reason Jarmo Kekalainen's listening to offers on big names. But yeah, Calgary just didn't have that fight back. And the interesting part, of course, being they've got a first-year head coach, they've got a first-year GM. So what do? You've already got a new coach and a new GM. So how do you fix this? How do you turn it around? And Tanev is a UFA this summer, I believe. So does this lead to Tanev saying, I want to go somewhere where I can make the playoffs and potentially win as a rental at the deadline? And why should that be Vancouver? Like, just throwing that out there, just saying, just as a fan of Tanev's work and all that. But we'll see what happens, right? So let me know your thoughts regarding A, the Gallagher suspension and how many you think it should be. B, the stadium jerseys, good, bad, that kind of thing. And I don't know, maybe I'll even put polls on the channel. But I do think the Devils, it's an interesting look. I do wish they'd gone for more than just the red and black. I wish there was just a little bit of white in there as well. The Flyers one, I think they did fine. The Rangers, I'm not a huge fan of NYR. And the Islanders, it just says Isles. It just feels lazy again. And it was pointed out, too, on social media that it looks very similar to the Smashville jersey Nashville did in its design. And then you guys can let me know, too, who do you think Columbus should trade and for what? So let me know your thoughts on those topics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.